She was supposed to be just another trainee fumbling through her first week with the M24 sniper system. Then she put 5 rounds through the same hole at 800 meters, while seasoned instructors watched their careers flash before their eyes. By the time the smoke cleared, nobody was calling her a beginner anymore. Here's what they never saw coming. The Quantico training facility stretched across Virginia's rolling hills like a small military city, all concrete barriers and steel-roofed buildings connected by asphalt roads that baked under the July sun. Heat waves shimmered off the parking lots where government sedans sat alongside rusted pickup trucks belonging to civilian contractors. The air carried the permanent smell of gunpowder mixed with pine sap from the surrounding forest, a combination that had soaked into every surface over decades of constant training operations. Preparing and narrating this type of story took us long efforts and hard work, so if you are enjoying the story, please consider subscribing to our channel. Range Complex Alpha dominated the eastern sector, its multiple firing lanes extending like fingers into a valley carved specifically for long-distance precision shooting. Concrete shooting positions dotted the ridgeline at measured intervals, each one equipped with steel benches, spotting scopes on adjustable mounts, and communication systems that crackled with range safety commands throughout the daylight hours. Red flags snapped in the morning breeze, indicating hot ranges where live ammunition thundered downrange toward targets that appeared as distant specks to the naked eye. The main classroom building squatted near the range entrance, its windows tinted dark to block the glare that could ruin a shooter's eyes before they even touched a rifle. Inside, fluorescent lights buzzed over rows of folding chairs arranged theater-style, facing a projection screen large enough to display ballistics charts readable from the back row. Whiteboards covered 3 walls, marked with trajectory calculations, wind formulas, and range cards left over from previous classes. The chemical smell of dry erase markers mixed with coffee that had been brewing too long in a pot nobody bothered to clean. Equipment lockers lined the hallway outside, each one secured with combination locks and labeled with serial numbers that meant nothing to civilian eyes but represented millions of dollars in precision hardware. The M24 sniper weapon system occupied its own dedicated storage area, each rifle nestled in foam cutouts inside aluminum cases that looked more like space program equipment than military gear. Leupold optics, Harris bipods, and custom-loaded match ammunition waited in organized rows, everything calibrated and documented with the obsessive precision that separated professional snipers from weekend hunters. The instructor cadre had assembled in the break room before sunrise, as they did every Monday when a new cycle began. Coffee steamed from ceramic mugs bearing unit crests and deployment patches, while men who had spent decades perfecting the art of long-range precision discussed the week's training schedule. Their voices carried the easy confidence of professionals who had seen every type of student, from cocky Special Forces candidates who thought they knew everything, to nervous National Guard soldiers who had never fired anything more powerful than an M16. Master Sergeant Rodriguez checked his roster for the 3rd time, counting names against the number of rifles staged for the morning's 0 procedures. 22 students, ranging from active-duty Marines preparing for Scout Sniper School to law enforcement officers upgrading their tactical capabilities. Most would struggle through the basic fundamentals, a few would show natural aptitude, and 1 or 2 might demonstrate the rare combination of patience and precision that marked true sniper potential. The statistics never varied much from class to class. Staff Sergeant Chen adjusted the spotting scope mounted beside Lane 7, the same position he had occupied for 6 years of instruction cycles. His weathered hands moved with automatic precision, checking parallax settings and ensuring the reticle remained crisp at maximum magnification. Students would occupy this lane throughout the week, attempting to master the complex relationship between rifle, optic, and environmental conditions that determined whether a bullet struck its intended target or disappeared into the Virginia countryside. The armory sergeant wheeled a cart loaded with cleaning supplies toward the firing line, its wheels squeaking against concrete that had been swept clean before dawn. Bore guides, cleaning rods, and bottles of solvent represented the unglamorous side of precision shooting, the maintenance requirements that separated serious marksmen from those who thought accuracy came from expensive equipment alone. Every rifle would be cleaned after each firing session, every piece of brass collected and accounted for, every detail documented in logbooks that would outlast most military careers. Range safety flags hung limp in the humid air, waiting for the morning breeze that would provide the first lesson in wind reading. Students would learn to watch vegetation, mirage patterns, and dust movement to estimate conditions that could push their bullets inches off target at extended distances. The valley's natural wind patterns created predictable challenges that instructors used to teach the fundamentals of environmental shooting, but occasionally the weather produced conditions that tested even experienced marksmen. Vehicle engines rumbled in the distance as the first students arrived, their conversations mixing nervousness with bravado in proportions that veteran instructors could assess within minutes. Boot leather scraped against concrete steps as bodies filed into the classroom, each person carrying expectations shaped by movies, video games, or war stories that rarely matched the reality of precision shooting. The morning briefing would begin the process of replacing fantasy with technical knowledge, but true understanding would come only through hours behind the rifle. Communication headsets waited on the equipment table, their coiled cords stretched and retracted by countless previous users. Voice procedures would be drilled until they became automatic, because effective spotting required precise language free from ambiguity or emotion. Wind left to right, half value, call it 2 minutes, carried more meaning than paragraphs of casual description. But students would need weeks to internalize the compact terminology that made long-range shooting possible. The morning sun climbed higher, burning off dew that had collected on rifle cases and spotting scopes during the cool Virginia night. Temperature changes would affect bullet trajectory throughout the day, creating another variable that students would struggle to understand and compensate for. Instructors had seen thousands of rounds fired in frustration by shooters who refused to accept that precision required adaptation to conditions beyond their control. Breakfast smells drifted from the dining facility across the base, mixing bacon grease and coffee with the cleaner sense of morning air. Students would learn that caffeine affected hand steadiness, that heavy meals impacted breathing control, and that successful snipers paid attention to every factor that could influence their shooting. Professional precision demanded lifestyle changes that extended far beyond the time spent behind a rifle scope. Administrative personnel began their Monday routine in offices overlooking the range complex, processing paperwork that tracked ammunition expenditure, training progress, and qualification scores. Computer screens displayed spreadsheets that reduced human performance to numbers. But instructors knew that statistics only captured part of what happened when a student discovered their potential or hit the wall of their limitations. Some learning could not be measured, only observed by those who understood the difference between mechanical accuracy and true marksmanship. The flagpole near the main gate stood straight in the morning calm, its ropes slapping against aluminum in an irregular rhythm that would become part of the day's background noise. Students would learn to ignore distractions while maintaining the mental focus required for precision shooting, but the learning process involved failure as much as success. Missed targets and blown shots taught lessons that perfect performance could not provide, building the resilience that separated professional snipers from casual shooters. Range maintenance crews had completed their dawn inspection, walking every lane to check for equipment problems or safety hazards that could interrupt training. Concrete shooting positions showed wear patterns created by thousands of previous students, each scuff mark representing someone's struggle to master skills that looked simple but demanded perfect coordination between mind and body. The morning routine proceeded with military efficiency, setting conditions for another day of instruction that would challenge assumptions and test limits. The classroom door opened with a metallic click that barely registered above the hum of conversation already filling the space. 21 students had claimed their seats in the predictable pattern that emerged whenever adults gathered for training. Front rows occupied by the eager and anxious back corners reserved for those who preferred to observe before participating. They clutched coffee cups and notebooks, their gear arranged with a careful attention to detail that marked military personnel adapting to unfamiliar situations. She entered without announcement, carrying a simple black backpack slung over one shoulder and a water bottle that looked like standard-issue government procurement. Her boots made soft contact with the polished concrete floor as she surveyed the remaining seats with the kind of neutral assessment that revealed nothing about her intentions or experience. Medium height, athletic build without obvious muscle definition, wearing the same digital camouflage utilities that identified her as just another student in a program designed to teach precision shooting to qualified personnel. The nameplate on her uniform read Martinez, printed in the same regulation font that appeared on every military document. No rank insignia decorated her sleeves or collar, suggesting either very junior status or one of the civilian law enforcement officers who occasionally attended these courses through interagency agreements. Her hair was pulled back in a regulation bun that showed attention to detail without particular vanity, and her hands moved with the economical precision of someone accustomed to following procedures exactly as written. She selected a seat in the third row, neither prominent nor hidden, and placed her backpack on the floor with movements that created no unnecessary noise. Her posture remained relaxed but attentive as other students continued their pre-class conversations, discussing previous shooting experience and expectations for the week ahead. Their voices carried the mixture of confidence and uncertainty that instructors had learned to recognize as the starting point for every training cycle. Two Marines from Camp Lejeune debated the merits of different rifle calibers with the enthusiasm of people who had read extensively but shot relatively little. Their conversation included technical terms delivered with the precision of textbook definitions rather than practical understanding, each statement followed by nods of agreement that suggested mutual reinforcement rather than genuine expertise. They gestured with hands that had obviously handled weapons but had not yet developed the unconscious competence that marked experienced marksmen. A Navy SEAL from Dam Neck sat alone in the front row, his gear arranged with the obsessive organization that special operations units drilled into their personnel from day one. His notebook was already open to a clean page, pen positioned for immediate use, water bottle aligned parallel to his desk edge. Every movement reflected the kind of preparation that came from operations where attention to detail could determine mission success or catastrophic failure. 3 Army soldiers occupied adjacent seats near the center aisle, their conversation focused on assignment anxiety and speculation about instructor expectations. One had attended Scout Sniper School at Fort Benning but failed the final shooting test, a fact he shared with the resignation of someone still processing professional disappointment. His companions offered encouragement that sounded genuine but carried undertones of concern about their own prospects for success. Law enforcement representatives from various agencies filled the remaining seats, their civilian clothes and equipment creating subtle distinctions from the uniformed military personnel. A FBI agent carried a leather portfolio that suggested bureaucratic sophistication, while state police officers displayed the practical gear preferences of people who worked in unpredictable environments. Their conversations revealed varying levels of shooting experience, from SWAT team veterans to investigators seeking to expand their tactical capabilities. Martinez opened her backpack and removed a single notebook, its cover unmarked except for government property tags that indicated military supply chain origin. She placed it squarely in front of her position and added a mechanical pencil that looked standard issue rather than personal preference. Her preparation required no adjustments or rearrangements, suggesting either remarkable efficiency or very limited expectations for what the course would demand. The instructors entered as a group, their timing coordinated with the precision that marked professional military educators. Master Sergeant Rodriguez carried a folder thick with training materials and administrative requirements, while Staff Sergeant Chen brought a laptop computer and projection remote that would control the morning's technical presentation. Their movements reflected the confidence of people who had conducted the same briefing hundreds of times, each gesture economical and purposeful. Rodriguez surveyed the assembled students with eyes that had evaluated thousands of trainees across multiple decades of instruction. His expression remained neutral but attentive, cataloging details that would influence his teaching approach throughout the week. Some students met his gaze directly, others studied their notebooks with sudden intensity, and a few displayed the kind of nervous energy that suggested performance anxiety beyond normal training stress. "Good morning," Rodriguez began, his voice carrying the authority of someone accustomed to commanding attention without raising volume. "Welcome to the M24 Sniper Weapons System course. Over the next 5 days, you will learn to operate one of the most precise rifle platforms in military service. Some of you will discover capabilities you didn't know you possessed. Others will encounter limitations that no amount of equipment can overcome." The room settled into the focused quiet that marked the beginning of serious instruction. Notebooks opened, pens appeared, and conversations ceased as students prepared to absorb information that would determine their success or failure during the coming week. Martinez maintained the same neutral posture she had adopted upon entering, her pencil positioned above her notebook but not yet engaged with the paper. "The M24 represents 40 years of continuous refinement in military precision shooting," Chen continued, advancing the first slide of his presentation. "Remington 700 action, Leupold Mark IV optic, Harris bipod Macmillan stock combined to create a system capable of consistent accuracy beyond most shooters' abilities. Your challenge will be developing the skills necessary to realize that potential. Detailed specifications filled the projection screen: barrel length, twist rate, ammunition specifications, and performance parameters that reduced the rifle to engineering measurements. Students copied information with varying degrees of completeness, some attempting to capture every detail, while others focused on what they perceived as essential facts. Martinez wrote nothing, her attention focused entirely on the instructors rather than the technical data they presented. "Who has previous experience with bolt-action rifles?" Rodriguez asked, scanning the room for raised hands. Approximately half the students responded, their expressions ranging from confident to uncertain, as they acknowledged varying levels of familiarity with precision shooting equipment. The SEAL's hand remained steady and confident, while several others showed the hesitancy of people uncertain whether their experience qualified as relevant. Martinez's hand stayed in her lap, her expression unchanged as the question passed over the group. Her silence could have indicated either complete inexperience or the kind of professional discretion that avoided unnecessary disclosure of background information. Rodriguez noted her non-response without comment, adding her to the mental category of students who would require careful observation to assess accurately. "Experience with civilian hunting rifles does not necessarily translate to military precision shooting," Chen warned, addressing the confident expressions that had appeared on several faces. "The M24 demands different techniques, different expectations, and different standards of performance. Previous knowledge can be helpful, but it can also create bad habits that impede learning." The morning briefing continued with safety procedures, range protocols, and administrative requirements that formed the foundation for practical instruction. Students absorbed information at different rates, some asking detailed questions while others remained silent observers of the learning process. Martinez maintained her pattern of attentive listening without active participation, contributing nothing to the discussions but missing nothing that was presented. Equipment familiarization followed the classroom portion, as students filed outside to examine actual M24 rifles under instructor supervision. Each weapon was presented with the ceremony appropriate to precision instruments worth more than most civilian vehicles, their serial numbers recorded against student assignments, and their condition documented with photographs that would be compared to post-training inspections. Martinez received rifle number 0847, its steel and composite construction reflecting thousands of rounds fired by previous students. The weapon showed normal wear patterns but maintained the tight tolerances that enabled sub-minute of angle accuracy under proper conditions. She accepted it with the same neutral demeanor she had displayed throughout the morning, handling the rifle with competent familiarity but no particular enthusiasm or anxiety. "This weapon will be your responsibility for the duration of the course," Rodriguez announced as students examined their assigned rifles. "You will clean it, maintain it, and secure it according to established procedures. The rifle's performance will reflect your care and attention to detail. Treat it accordingly." The group moved toward the firing line for initial familiarization. Each student carrying equipment that represented months of specialized training, compressed into a single week. Martinez walked with the same measured pace she had maintained since arrival, her rifle carried in the prescribed manner but without the obvious self-consciousness that marked several other students. Whatever her background, she appeared comfortable with military procedures and equipment handling requirements. The firing line buzzed with the kind of nervous energy that accompanied new students encountering precision equipment for the first time. 22 shooting positions stretched across the concrete platform, each marked with lane numbers painted in regulation yellow and equipped with adjustable shooting rests that had supported thousands of rifles over the years. Students claimed their assigned positions with the awkward movements of people adapting to unfamiliar surroundings, their conversations mixing technical questions with attempts at humor that revealed underlying anxiety about the performance expectations ahead. Lane 14 became Martinez's domain for the week, a position that placed her neither at the favored center lanes nor the less desirable end positions where crosswinds created additional challenges. She set her rifle case down with the same economical movements she had displayed throughout the morning, opening it to reveal the M24, nestled in foam cutouts that had been shaped by countless previous weapons. Her hands moved without hesitation as she lifted the rifle, but several students nearby paused their own preparations to observe her technique. "First time handling one of these?" asked Corporal Williams from the adjacent lane, his voice carrying the kind of casual superiority that marked someone eager to establish expertise early in the training cycle. His own rifle lay across his shooting rest with the careful positioning of someone who had read the manual thoroughly but had limited practical experience with precision equipment. The question carried undertones of assessment disguised as friendly conversation. Martinez glanced toward him with polite acknowledgement but offered no verbal response, instead focusing her attention on the rifle's basic functions with movements that suggested neither particular familiarity nor obvious inexperience. Her silence could have indicated shyness, concentration, or simply a preference for observation over conversation. Williams interpreted the lack of response as confirmation of his assumption about her limited background. "These systems can be pretty intimidating at first," he continued, his tone shifting toward instruction as he gestured toward his own weapon. "Took me weeks to get comfortable with all the adjustments and settings. The optic alone has more features than most people know how to use properly. Don't worry if it seems overwhelming initially." The unsolicited advice drew attention from other students within hearing range, several of whom nodded in agreement while examining their own rifles with renewed concern. The complexity of the equipment had already generated multiple questions during the classroom briefing, and Williams' comments reinforced the impression that mastering the M24 would require extensive time and practice that exceeded the week's training schedule. Staff Sergeant Chen approached their section of the firing line, his clipboard indicating administrative duties that accompanied the technical instruction. His eyes moved systematically across each position, checking equipment placement and student readiness with the automatic assessment that marked experienced instructors. He paused briefly at Martinez's lane, noting her rifle's position and her attentive posture without comment or correction. "The bolt cycling demonstration will begin in 5 minutes, Chen announced to the group. "Ensure your weapons are pointed downrange and your chambers are visibly empty. We will practice the manual of arms before any ammunition is introduced to the firing line." His voice carried the authority of someone accustomed to managing potentially dangerous situations through precise adherence to established procedures. Students began manipulating their rifles with varying degrees of confidence, the mechanical sounds of bolt operation creating an irregular rhythm across the firing line. Some movements were smooth and deliberate, suggesting previous experience with similar weapons, while others revealed the hesitancy of people working through unfamiliar procedures step by step. Martinez's rifle produced the same metallic clicks as the others, but her timing seemed neither rushed nor uncertain. "Watch your bolt face alignment," Williams offered, apparently having appointed himself as an informal mentor for his section of the line. "These precision rifles are more sensitive to improper handling than standard infantry weapons. Small mistakes can affect accuracy in ways that aren't immediately obvious." His instruction was technically correct, but delivered with the condescending tone that suggested assumed superiority rather than genuine helpfulness. Master Sergeant Rodriguez positioned himself at the center of the firing line, his own demonstration rifle, prepared to illustrate proper techniques for the assembled students. His movements reflected decades of experience with precision weapons, each action flowing smoothly into the next without wasted motion or unnecessary force. The rifle responded to his handling like a familiar tool, rather than a complex machine requiring conscious control. The M24's bolt operation requires smooth, consistent pressure rather than aggressive manipulation, Rodriguez demonstrated, his actions visible to students throughout the firing line. Jerky movements can disturb the rifle's bedding and affect shot placement. Develop habits that treat the weapon as a precision instrument rather than a field expedient solution. Students attempted to replicate his technique with mixed results, their rifles producing sounds that ranged from smooth mechanical operation to harsh grinding that indicated excessive force or improper timing. Martinez's weapon operated with consistent smoothness, suggesting either natural mechanical aptitude or previous experience with similar systems. Williams noticed her technique, but attributed it to beginner's luck rather than developed skill. "Not bad for a first-timer," he commented, his tone suggesting surprise mixed with patronizing approval. "Some people have a natural feel for mechanical systems. Just remember that real shooting involves a lot more than smooth bolt operation. The fundamentals take years to master properly." His assessment carried the implicit assumption that initial competence would not translate to actual shooting performance. The morning progressed through basic equipment familiarization, with students learning to adjust bipods, operate safety mechanisms, and understand the relationship between rifle components that determined accuracy potential. Each topic generated questions that revealed the group's diverse backgrounds and varying levels of preparation for the technical demands of precision shooting. Martinez continued her pattern of attentive listening without active participation in discussions. Instructor demonstrations covered sight picture acquisition, breathing techniques, and trigger control fundamentals that formed the foundation for accurate shooting. Students practiced these skills with empty rifles, their movements creating the kind of awkward coordination that marked people learning complex motor skills under observation. Some displayed natural aptitude while others struggled with basic concepts that would require extensive practice to internalize. Consistency matters more than perfection, Chen explained as students worked through dry-fire exercises. Develop repeatable habits that work under stress rather than techniques that only function under ideal conditions. Combat shooting rarely occurs in comfortable circumstances. His instruction reflected the practical experience that separated military training from civilian recreational shooting. The lunch break provided opportunity for informal conversation among students, their discussions mixing speculation about afternoon training with assessments of each other's capabilities and backgrounds. Martinez ate alone at a table near the window, her attention divided between a military technical manual and occasional glances toward the firing range, where flags indicated changing wind conditions. "Think the quiet one knows what she's doing?" asked Private Johnson, nodding toward Martinez's table while addressing his companions. "She hasn't said much, but she seemed pretty comfortable with the rifle this morning. Sometimes the quiet ones surprise you." His observation carried genuine curiosity rather than criticism, suggesting openness to being impressed by unexpected competence. "Probably just nervous," Williams replied dismissively. "First-time students usually stay quiet until they get comfortable with the environment. She'll probably open up once she realizes nobody's judging her performance too harshly. It's pretty common behavior for people who aren't sure what to expect." His assessment reflected confidence in his ability to read people and situations accurately. The afternoon session began with live-fire exercises designed to establish baseline shooting abilities and identify students who would require additional attention during the week's training. Instructors distributed ammunition with the ceremony appropriate to precision cartridges that cost more per round than most students earned per hour, each bullet representing a measured opportunity to demonstrate developing skills or reveal persistent problems. Range safety briefings consumed additional time as instructors emphasized the irreversible consequences of mistakes with high-powered rifles at extended distances. Students signed acknowledgement forms and received ear protection that would be mandatory during all live-fire activities, their expressions reflecting the seriousness that accompanied transition from academic instruction to actual shooting. Martinez received her allocation of 20 rounds for the afternoon zeroing procedures, each cartridge identical in appearance but representing sophisticated manufacturing processes that ensured consistent performance across varying environmental conditions. She examined the ammunition with the same neutral attention she had applied to other aspects of the training, neither displaying obvious familiarity nor apparent concern about the upcoming shooting exercises. "Remember, this is just preliminary shooting to establish Basic Zero," Rodriguez announced as students prepared for their first live-fire experience. "Don't expect exceptional accuracy immediately. The rifle-shooter relationship requires time to develop, and today's purpose is establishing a foundation for the rest of the week's training." His words were intended to reduce performance pressure, but several students still displayed obvious anxiety about their upcoming shooting attempts. The firing line transformed as students loaded their first rounds, the mechanical sounds of ammunition being chambered, creating a new level of seriousness that had been absent during morning familiarization. Instructors positioned themselves behind each shooter, their presence representing both safety supervision and performance evaluation that would influence the remainder of each student's training experience. The first command to commence firing echoed across the range at 1,347 hours, transforming the afternoon from academic exercise into practical demonstration of individual capabilities. Students settled behind their rifles with varying degrees of preparation, some having spent the lunch period mentally rehearsing the fundamentals, while others approached their weapons with the kind of nervous energy that typically preceded disappointing performance. The concrete shooting positions felt different now, weighted with the responsibility of live ammunition and instructor evaluation. Martinez adjusted her position behind rifle 0847 with movements that appeared neither hurried nor particularly deliberate, her body settling into the shooting stance with a kind of natural alignment that some students struggled to achieve after hours of instruction. Her breathing pattern remained steady as she acquired her sight picture, the rifle scope revealing targets that had seemed impossibly distant to the naked eye during morning orientation. The mechanical precision of her preparation drew no attention from nearby instructors, who were focused on students displaying obvious anxiety or technical difficulties. 20 meters to her left, Corporal Williams wrestled with his bipod adjustment, the legs refusing to lock at the height he considered optimal for his shooting position. His frustration was evident in the increasingly forceful manipulation of equipment that had functioned smoothly during dry practice sessions, but now seemed determined to complicate his first live fire attempt. Sweat appeared on his forehead despite the moderate temperature, and his breathing pattern had accelerated beyond the controlled rhythm emphasized during morning instruction. "Take your time establishing a stable platform," Staff Sergeant Chen advised, his voice carrying across the firing line to students still preparing their shooting positions. "Accuracy depends more on consistency than speed. The targets will remain stationary regardless of how quickly you engage them." His instruction reflected years of experience with student anxiety that produced rushed preparation and predictably poor results. The FBI agent in Lane 8 had achieved what appeared to be a textbook shooting position, his rifle supported by both bipod and rear bag, with precise attention to the alignment principles demonstrated during classroom instruction. His breathing was controlled, his trigger finger positioned correctly, and his cheek weld appeared consistent with approved technique. Everything about his preparation suggested competent understanding of precision shooting fundamentals, yet his first shot produced no visible impact on the 100-meter target. "Spotting scope shows impact low and right," called the instructor assigned to his lane. "Check your sight picture and breathing pattern." The fundamentals haven't changed since dry practice. The feedback was delivered without criticism, but the agent's expression revealed frustration with the disconnect between theoretical knowledge and practical application that marked many students' introduction to precision shooting. Martinez's first shot occurred without fanfare or obvious preparation ritual. The rifle's report no different from the weapons firing around her, but the result distinctly separate from her peers' performance. The spotting scope revealed an impact precisely centered in the target's scoring rings, a result that could have indicated exceptional skill or remarkable luck depending on subsequent shots. She cycled the bolt with the same smooth motion she had displayed during morning familiarization, ejecting the spent case and chambering the next round without pause or celebration. The Navy SEAL from Dam Neck fired his second shot with the methodical precision that marked special operations training, but the spotting scope revealed impact several inches from his intended point of aim. His jaw tightened with frustration that remained controlled, but visible to instructors familiar with the perfectionist tendencies that both helped and hindered elite unit personnel. The disconnect between expectation and performance created the kind of internal pressure that could either motivate improvement or generate destructive tension. "Environmental conditions are changing," Master Sergeant Rodriguez announced, noting the wind flags that had shifted since the morning briefing. "Pay attention to mirage patterns and vegetation movement. Conditions that existed during your sight adjustment may no longer apply to current shots." His reminder addressed the dynamic nature of precision shooting that separated it from indoor target practice, but several students continued firing without apparent consideration of external factors. The afternoon sun had intensified since lunch, creating heat waves that rose from the concrete firing positions and distorted the view through rifle scopes. Students unaccustomed to shooting in such conditions struggled to maintain consistent sight pictures as thermal currents affected their optics, adding another variable to shooting problems that already challenged their developing skills. Martinez appeared unaffected by the environmental changes, her shooting rhythm remaining constant despite conditions that frustrated other students. Williams finally achieved what he considered an acceptable shooting position after extensive adjustment of his equipment and body placement. His rifle was supported according to the manual's specifications, his breathing pattern approximated the instructed technique, and his trigger control attempted to replicate the demonstration he had observed. His first shot produced an impact visible through the spotting scope but located well outside the target's scoring rings, generating visible disappointment that affected his preparation for subsequent shots. "Consistent mistakes can be corrected through sight adjustment," his assigned instructor explained. "Random shot placement indicates fundamental problems that require technique modification rather than equipment changes. Focus on repeatable habits rather than perfect results." The guidance was technically sound, but did little to address Williams' growing frustration with performance that fell short of his expectations. Two Army soldiers in adjacent lanes experienced similar difficulties, their shots creating patterns that suggested good precision but poor accuracy, indicating sight adjustment requirements rather than fundamental technique problems. Their conversation between shots revealed confusion about the relationship between mechanical accuracy and environmental influences that affected bullet flight over extended distances. Both had achieved expert ratings with standard infantry rifles, but the M24's precision capabilities exposed limitations in their shooting fundamentals. Martinez's third shot impacted within millimeters of her previous efforts, establishing a group that would have been exceptional for experienced shooters and was remarkable for someone ostensibly learning the system. Her shooting rhythm had settled into a pattern that consumed approximately 45 seconds per shot, including target acquisition, breathing control, trigger press, and follow-through observation. The consistency suggested either extensive practice with similar weapons or natural aptitude that exceeded normal learning curves. The state police officer in Lane 16 struggled with equipment familiarity, his civilian shooting background having provided experience with different rifle systems that required modified techniques for optimal M24 performance. His attempts to apply familiar habits to unfamiliar equipment produced inconsistent results that frustrated both him and his assigned instructor, who provided guidance that conflicted with techniques that had previously worked well for the officer in different circumstances. Military precision shooting emphasizes different priorities than civilian applications, the instructor explained. Techniques that work adequately for hunting or casual target shooting may not provide the consistency required for military standards. Be prepared to modify approaches that have worked in other contexts. The advice was accurate but difficult to implement for someone whose muscle memory had been developed through years of different practices. Range conditions continued to evolve as the afternoon progressed, with wind patterns shifting and thermal currents intensifying under the Virginia sun. Students who had achieved reasonable results during their initial shots found their performance degrading as environmental factors changed, creating frustration with equipment and techniques that had seemed adequate under different conditions. The dynamic nature of outdoor shooting created learning opportunities that could not be replicated in classroom instruction. Martinez adapted to changing conditions with adjustments so subtle they appeared unconscious, her shooting position remaining essentially unchanged, while her point of aim shifted slightly to compensate for wind effects that other students either ignored or misread. Her fourth and fifth shots maintained the same impact area as her previous efforts, establishing a group size that would have satisfied advanced students with significantly more training time. The Marine corporal from Camp Lejeune experienced the kind of shooting difficulties that challenged his self-image as a competent marksman, his rifle producing shot groups that indicated fundamental problems with technique rather than simple sight adjustment requirements. His increasing frustration was evident in body language that became more tense with each disappointing result, creating the kind of negative feedback loop that often preceded complete shooting breakdowns among competitive students. Relax your grip pressure and focus on sight picture consistency, his instructor advised, recognizing the signs of performance anxiety that could transform capable shooters into frustrated failures. Physical tension translates directly to shooting errors. The rifle needs to recoil naturally rather than fighting against rigid support. The technical guidance addressed symptoms rather than causes, but provided direction for immediate improvement attempts. Ammunition consumption proceeded at different rates across the firing line, with some students taking extensive time between shots, while others fired more rapidly in attempts to complete their allocation before range time expired. Martinez maintained her consistent rhythm regardless of activity around her, each shot receiving the same attention and preparation as her previous efforts. Her sixth shot completed a group that measured less than 1 inch at 100 meters, performance that would have been noteworthy for any student but was exceptional for someone ostensibly new to the system. The afternoon's shooting concluded with mixed results that reflected the diverse backgrounds and capabilities of the assembled students. Some had achieved acceptable accuracy for first-day performance, others had struggled with fundamental concepts that would require additional instruction, and a few had demonstrated natural aptitude that suggested potential for advanced development. Martinez's target revealed performance that exceeded normal expectations for initial M24 exposure, but her reserved demeanor provided no insight into her background or previous experience. Equipment cleaning and maintenance consumed the remaining training time, with students learning the detailed procedures required for precision rifle care under field conditions. The M24's accuracy depended on meticulous attention to barrel cleanliness, action lubrication, and optic protection that exceeded the maintenance standards applied to standard infantry weapons. Martinez approached these tasks with the same methodical attention she had applied to shooting, her rifle receiving care that suggested understanding of precision equipment requirements. The pre-dawn darkness of Tuesday morning carried the familiar chill that settled over Virginia's hills during late summer nights, when clear skies allowed heat to radiate away from surfaces that had absorbed the previous day's solar energy. Martinez arrived at the equipment locker 40 minutes before the scheduled formation time, her footsteps creating soft echoes in the empty hallway where fluorescent lights hummed with the electrical consistency that marked government facilities operating around the clock. Her rifle case rested against the concrete wall, while she conducted the kind of detailed equipment inspection that most students would perform hurriedly after morning formation. Bays. Each component received individual attention: scope lens clarity, bipod leg extension mechanisms, sling attachment points, and the dozens of small details that separated precision instruments from standard military equipment. Her movements reflected the systematic approach of someone who understood that equipment failures during critical moments often traced back to inadequate preparation during routine maintenance periods. The bolt cycled with mechanical smoothness as she tested the action's operation in the cooler temperature, confirming that overnight storage had not affected the rifle's function. Her ear detected the subtle sound variations that indicated proper lubrication and timing, details that would escape notice from less experienced hands but provided essential feedback about the weapon's condition. The chamber inspection revealed the pristine bore that resulted from proper cleaning procedures, its steel surface reflecting light with mirror-like consistency. Ammunition selection occupied the next phase of her preparation, each cartridge examined under the hallway's harsh lighting for case defects, bullet seating irregularities, or powder charge variations that could affect accuracy at extended distances. Military match ammunition underwent quality control procedures that eliminated most manufacturing inconsistencies, but experienced shooters developed habits of personal inspection that provided additional confidence in equipment reliability. Martinez sorted through her allocation with movements that suggested familiarity with ammunition evaluation procedures. The range complex remained empty except for maintenance personnel who conducted their daily safety inspections before student activities began. Red warning flags hung motionless in the still air, creating conditions that would simplify wind reading for students still learning to interpret environmental factors. The concrete firing positions showed moisture from overnight condensation, requiring careful foot placement to avoid slipping during shooting preparations. She walked the distance to her assigned lane with measured steps that provided time for mental preparation without rushing the physical readiness that would determine her performance during the morning's shooting exercises. Lane 14 appeared unchanged from the previous afternoon, but overnight temperature variations could have affected the rifle's zero in ways that would become apparent only through actual shooting. The shooting rest waited in the same position where she had left it, its adjustments locked to prevent unauthorized changes. Equipment staging proceeded with the methodical precision that marked her approach to all training activities. Ammunition arranged in shooting order, cleaning materials positioned for immediate access, spotting scope aligned for target observation, and personal gear organized to prevent distraction during firing sequences. Her preparation consumed 20 additional minutes, time that would prove valuable when other students arrived with insufficient time for proper equipment readiness. The eastern horizon showed the first traces of dawn light as other students began arriving for the morning formation, their conversations mixing complaints about early hours with speculation about the day's training requirements. Most carried coffee in government-issue travel mugs, their caffeine dependency creating the kind of performance variables that instructors had learned to expect from civilian personnel adapting to military training schedules. Corporal Williams appeared particularly affected by the early start time, his movements lacking the confident energy he had displayed during previous training. His equipment setup proceeded with obvious haste as he attempted to compensate for insufficient preparation time, creating the kind of rushed readiness that typically preceded disappointing performance. His rifle case revealed cleaning materials still damp from improper storage, indicating maintenance procedures that fell short of precision equipment standards. Early morning shooting provides optimal conditions, Master Sergeant Rodriguez announced as students completed their equipment preparation. Stable atmospheric pressure, minimal thermal currents, and consistent lighting create opportunities for accuracy that won't exist later in the day. Take advantage of environmental factors that support precision shooting. His instruction emphasized the relationship between conditions and performance that separated serious marksmen from casual shooters. The morning's training focused on fundamentals refinement, with students attempting to replicate previous days' performance while incorporating technical corrections identified during initial shooting. Each student's target from the previous afternoon had been analyzed to identify specific problems requiring individual attention, creating personalized instruction plans that addressed weaknesses revealed through live-fire assessment. Martinez's target analysis indicated performance that exceeded normal first-day expectations, but also revealed subtle inconsistencies that suggested areas for potential improvement. Her group size had been exceptional, but shot placement showed minor variations that could be addressed through refined technique application. The analysis provided direction for advancement rather than correction of fundamental problems. "Your sight picture management appears excellent," Staff Sergeant Chen observed, reviewing her target with the critical eye that marked experienced instructors. "Focus on follow-through consistency to reduce the slight vertical dispersion in your group. The horizontal spread is already within acceptable parameters for this range." His assessment provided specific guidance while acknowledging competent baseline performance. Loading procedures began with the ceremonial precision that accompanied live ammunition handling in military training environments. Each student received 15 rounds for the morning shooting, their allocation carefully counted and documented to ensure accountability for precision cartridges that represented significant financial investment. Martinez accepted her ammunition with the same neutral demeanor that characterized all her training interactions. The first shot of the morning came from Lane 7, where the Navy SEAL had achieved what appeared to be perfect shooting position preparation. His rifle's report echoed across the range with the sharp crack that marked high-velocity ammunition, leaving precision barrels, followed immediately by the distinctive sound of bullet impact on the target backstop. The spotting scope revealed an improvement over his previous day's performance, suggesting successful adaptation to instructor guidance. Martinez settled behind her rifle with movements that had become familiar to nearby students, her body alignment achieving the consistent position that supported accurate shooting without apparent effort or adjustment. Her breathing pattern established the controlled rhythm that provided stability during trigger manipulation, while her eye acquired the sight picture that connected rifle, optic, and distant target into a unified system. Her first shot of the morning struck the target with impact that appeared centered through the spotting scope, continuing the accuracy pattern she had established during initial training. The consistency suggested either remarkable natural ability or background experience that exceeded her training file documentation. She cycled the bolt with the smooth motion that had become her trademark, preparing for subsequent shots without celebration or obvious satisfaction. Students around her experienced varying degrees of success, their performance reflecting the diverse backgrounds and learning rates that characterized every training cycle. Some achieved improvement over previous results, others struggled with consistency despite obvious effort, and a few displayed the kind of frustration that often preceded requests for additional individual instruction. The FBI agent had modified his shooting technique based on instructor feedback, resulting in tighter shot groups but impact areas that required sight adjustment to achieve proper point of aim. His methodical approach to problem-solving reflected investigative training that emphasized systematic analysis, but precision shooting demanded physical coordination that could not be achieved through intellectual understanding alone. Williams continued experiencing difficulties that seemed to compound with each unsuccessful shot, his increasing frustration creating physical tension that interfered with the relaxed control required for accurate shooting. His target showed shot dispersion that indicated fundamental technique problems rather than simple equipment adjustment requirements, suggesting the need for extensive individual attention that would consume significant instructor time. Consistent errors can be corrected through sight adjustment, his assigned instructor repeated, attempting to redirect focus from individual shot results to overall pattern analysis. Random shot placement requires technique modification. Determine whether your misses follow predictable patterns or appear scattered without logical explanation. The guidance provided diagnostic direction, but implementation required student cooperation that frustration often prevented. Martinez's shooting rhythm had settled into a pattern that consumed approximately 50 seconds per shot, slightly longer than the previous day but suggesting increased attention to preparation details rather than uncertainty about procedures. Her second and third shots impacted within the same area as her first effort, establishing accuracy that would have satisfied advanced students with significantly more training experience. Range conditions remained favorable throughout the morning session, with minimal wind effects and stable lighting that supported consistent shooting performance. Students who adapted to environmental stability achieved better results than the previous afternoon, while those who continued struggling with fundamental techniques showed no improvement despite optimal conditions. The state police officer had implemented instructor suggestions about grip pressure and trigger control, resulting in shot groups that demonstrated improved precision even though accuracy still required sight adjustment. His progress illustrated the typical learning curve for competent shooters adapting to unfamiliar equipment, with mechanical precision preceding accurate shot placement as students developed familiarity with new systems. Target analysis during the mid-morning break revealed performance patterns that would guide afternoon instruction priorities. Most students showed improvement in group size consistency, indicating successful application of fundamental techniques, but many still required sight adjustments to achieve accurate shot placement on target centers. Martinez's target displayed both excellent precision and accurate shot placement, suggesting minimal requirement for technical correction. Exceptional consistency for second-day shooting, Rodriguez observed, examining her target with the experienced eye that had evaluated thousands of student efforts. Your natural ability appears well-suited to precision shooting requirements. Consider advanced training opportunities that could develop this potential further. His assessment carried the kind of professional recognition that experienced instructors reserved for students displaying unusual aptitude. The equipment maintenance consumed the remainder of the morning session, with students learning advanced cleaning procedures that ensured optimal rifle performance under varying environmental conditions. The M24's accuracy potential could only be realized through meticulous attention to barrel cleanliness, action lubrication, and component care that exceeded standard military maintenance practices. Martinez approached these tasks with the systematic thoroughness that characterized all her training activities, her rifle receiving attention that suggested understanding of precision equipment requirements. Her cleaning technique reflected familiarity with procedures that supported accuracy rather than simple functional reliability, indicating background knowledge that exceeded basic military training. The Wednesday morning air carried a different quality than previous days, heavy with moisture that had collected overnight and would soon transform into thermal currents as the Virginia sun climbed higher. Martinez positioned herself at lane 14 with the punctuality that had marked her entire training experience, her equipment arranged with geometric precision that suggested military background despite the absence of visible rank indicators or unit identification on her uniform. The M24 rested across her shooting rest with barrel alignment that appeared achieved through measurement rather than approximation, its scope positioned at the exact height that eliminated neck strain during extended shooting sessions. Her ammunition sat arranged in precise rows beside her right elbow, each cartridge oriented identically to facilitate smooth loading procedures during rapid engagement sequences. The attention to detail extended to cleaning materials, reference cards, and personal gear positioned within arm's reach but clear of recoil paths and ejection patterns. Range preparation activities proceeded around her as other students arrived with varying degrees of readiness for the day's advanced training. The morning would introduce shooting at 300 meters, more than tripling the distance from previous exercises, and adding environmental factors that would challenge students who had achieved confidence at shorter ranges. Wind effects, bullet drop, and mirage patterns would become significant variables requiring skills that most students had not yet developed. Staff Sergeant Chen conducted his pre-firing inspection with the systematic thoroughness that ensured range safety while evaluating student preparation. His experienced eye cataloged details that separated properly prepared shooters from those who relied on luck rather than systematic preparation. Martinez's position received minimal attention because it consistently met standards without requiring correction or guidance, allowing him to focus on students whose equipment placement suggested potential problems. 300-meter shooting introduces ballistic factors that don't exist at shorter distances, Master Sergeant Rodriguez announced as students completed their preparation. Bullet drop becomes significant, wind effects multiply, and target identification requires different optical techniques. Success depends on systematic application of fundamentals rather than approximation or guesswork. His instruction emphasized the technical precision that separated military marksmanship from recreational shooting. The target frames at 300 meters appeared impossibly small through naked eye observation, their scoring rings barely visible even with the aid of spotting scopes positioned at each firing lane. Students who had felt confident engaging 100-meter targets now faced challenges that would test their developing skills under conditions that allowed minimal margin for error. The psychological impact of increased distance affected some shooters before they fired their first rounds. Williams had spent the previous evening studying ballistics tables and trajectory charts, his notebook filled with calculations that attempted to reduce precision shooting to mathematical formulas. His preparation reflected the academic approach that some students applied to challenges requiring physical coordination and environmental adaptation. The theoretical knowledge would prove helpful, but practical application demanded skills that could not be learned from reference materials alone. External ballistics become predictable through systematic observation, Chen explained while adjusting the demonstration rifle for long-range engagement. Environmental conditions change constantly, but experienced shooters develop the ability to read conditions and adjust their technique accordingly. The rifle's mechanical accuracy remains constant. Your challenge is adapting to variables beyond your control. Martinez adjusted her scope's magnification to accommodate the increased distance, her movements reflecting familiarity with optical systems that exceeded basic training requirements. The adjustment proceeded without reference to instruction manuals or consultation with nearby students, suggesting background knowledge that enabled confident equipment manipulation. Her eye acquisition time behind the scope appeared unchanged despite the dramatically reduced target appearance. The first command to commence firing generated different responses than previous days, with some students displaying obvious anxiety about their ability to engage targets at ranges that challenge their visual capabilities. Others demonstrated inappropriate confidence that failed to account for the technical difficulties introduced by extended distance shooting. Martinez settled behind her rifle with the same consistent approach that had marked her previous performance. Her sight picture acquisition proceeded with methodical precision as she established the sight alignment that connected rifle, scope, and distant target into a unified aiming system. The target appeared significantly smaller through her optic, but her breathing pattern remained unchanged as she prepared for her first long-range engagement. The consistency of her preparation suggested either extensive practice or natural ability that enabled rapid adaptation to changing requirements. The range fell silent except for the soft whisper of wind moving through vegetation between firing positions and target areas. Students held their breath as Martinez pressed her trigger with the controlled application that had characterized her previous shooting, the rifle's report echoing across the expanded distance before the bullet completed its extended flight time to the target. The spotting scope revealed impact that appeared centered within the target's scoring area. Excellent shot placement for initial 300-meter engagement, observed the instructor assigned to her lane, his voice carrying professional appreciation for performance that exceeded normal learning curves. Your elevation compensation appears accurate, and windage correction shows good environmental reading skills. Maintain the same technique for subsequent shots. The feedback acknowledged competence while providing encouragement for continued performance. Students around her experienced varying degrees of difficulty with the transition to long-range shooting, their 100-meter confidence evaporating as environmental factors multiplied the consequences of technique errors. The FBI agent's first shot produced no visible impact on his target, suggesting bullet placement outside the backstop area or elevation errors that carried his round over the target entirely. His expression revealed frustration with equipment that had functioned adequately at shorter distances. Martinez's second shot impacted within inches of her first effort, establishing the kind of consistency that marked experienced long-range shooters. Her bolt manipulation remained smooth and deliberate as she prepared for additional shots, each motion reflecting practiced coordination between mental preparation and physical execution. The rhythm of her shooting suggested comfort with extended engagement procedures that other students had not yet developed. The Navy SEAL from Dam Neck struggled with wind-reading challenges that his previous training had not addressed, his shots creating vertical groups that indicated good elevation judgment but horizontal dispersion that revealed inadequate compensation for crosswind effects. His analytical approach to problem-solving was evident in the increased time he spent studying environmental indicators between shots. But translation of observation into accurate shooting adjustments required experience that could not be gained through intellectual analysis alone. Wind effects increase exponentially with distance, Rodriguez announced, noting the difficulties that multiple students were experiencing. A 1-mile-per-hour wind that has minimal effect at 100 meters can move your bullet several inches at 300 meters. Learn to read environmental conditions through vegetation movement, mirage patterns, and atmospheric pressure changes. His instruction provided theoretical framework, but practical application demanded individual experimentation and experience. Martinez's third shot completed a group that would have satisfied advanced students with significantly more training time, her accuracy maintaining consistency despite environmental conditions that challenged other shooters. Her shooting position remained unchanged throughout the exercise, suggesting body mechanics that provided stable platform support without requiring constant adjustment or repositioning. The state police officer had achieved reasonable shot placement but struggled with group consistency, his bullets impacting at different elevations despite apparently identical shooting technique. His experience with shorter-range police shooting had not prepared him for the precise hold and follow-through requirements that long-range accuracy demanded. Each shot revealed subtle technique variations that accumulated into significant accuracy differences at extended distances. Williams fired his allocation with increasing frustration as theoretical preparation failed to translate into practical results. His calculations had provided correct elevation adjustments, but his inability to read wind conditions resulted in shot placement that varied unpredictably across the target face. His notebook contained correct ballistics information, but precision shooting required integration of multiple variables that could only be mastered through extensive practice. Consistent fundamentals produce consistent results regardless of distance, Chen reminded students who were struggling with the transition to long-range shooting. The rifle's mechanical accuracy hasn't changed. Environmental effects have multiplied the consequences of technique errors that were masked at shorter ranges. Focus on repeatable habits rather than attempting to compensate for inconsistent shooting through equipment adjustments. Target analysis during the mid-morning break revealed performance patterns that separated students with natural long-range aptitude from those who would require extensive additional training to achieve competence at extended distances. Martinez's target displayed grouping that would have been exceptional for experienced shooters, while several other students showed shot dispersion that indicated fundamental problems requiring individual attention. Outstanding performance for initial long-range shooting, Rodriguez observed while examining her target. Your natural ability appears well suited to precision shooting at extended distances. This level of consistency typically requires months of development in most students. His assessment carried professional recognition that experienced instructors reserve for students displaying unusual capabilities. The afternoon session introduced movement between shooting positions, adding physical stress and time pressure to accuracy requirements that students were still developing under static conditions. Martinez adapted to the changing requirements with the same systematic approach that had characterized her previous training, her equipment transitions proceeding with efficiency that suggested familiarity with tactical shooting procedures. Each position change required complete reestablishment of shooting fundamentals, from equipment setup to environmental assessment to sight picture acquisition that connected rifle systems with distant targets. Students who had achieved acceptable accuracy from single positions discovered that consistent performance under changing conditions demanded skills they had not yet developed. Martinez's shooting remained consistent despite the additional challenges, her accuracy unaffected by physical movement or time constraints that degraded other students' performance. Her transitions between positions proceeded with measured efficiency that suggested tactical training beyond basic marksmanship instruction. The combination of technical shooting skills and operational capabilities indicated background experience that exceeded her training file documentation. Equipment maintenance concluded the day's activities as students learned advanced cleaning procedures required for rifles that had fired increased round counts under varying environmental conditions. Martinez approached these tasks with the systematic thoroughness that marked all her training activities, her rifle receiving care that would ensure optimal performance during subsequent exercises. Thursday morning arrived with atmospheric conditions that would challenge every technical skill the students had developed during the week's progression through increasingly difficult shooting scenarios. Dense humidity hung in the pre-dawn air like an invisible curtain, creating the kind of environmental instability that separated theoretical knowledge from practical marksmanship ability. Martinez arrived at her equipment locker 90 minutes before formation, her early presence indicating preparation routines that extended far beyond the mechanical tasks most students considered adequate. Her rifle inspection proceeded with forensic attention to detail, each component receiving individual evaluation under the harsh fluorescent lighting that revealed imperfections invisible in natural illumination. The scope's internal mechanisms were tested through complete magnification range cycling, ensuring that optical adjustments would function smoothly under the time pressure that would characterize the day's shooting exercises. Her breathing technique during these preparations remained controlled and systematic, suggesting mental conditioning that accompanied physical readiness. The ammunition allocation for advanced precision shooting consisted of match-grade cartridges that represented the pinnacle of military loading technology, each round manufactured to tolerances that exceeded commercial hunting ammunition by factors that most civilian shooters could not appreciate. Martinez examined every cartridge under magnification that revealed case mouth uniformity, bullet seating consistency, and powder charge variations that could affect accuracy at the extended ranges planned for the morning's training. Preparing and narrating this type of story took us long efforts and hard work, so if you are enjoying the story, please consider subscribing to our channel. Range Complex Alpha had been reconfigured overnight to support shooting at 600 meters, a distance that would reveal technique flaws invisible at shorter ranges while introducing environmental factors that most students had never encountered. The target frames appeared as tiny rectangles through spotting scopes, their scoring rings barely discernible even under optimal lighting conditions. Students who had felt confident at 300 meters now faced challenges that would test the limits of their developing capabilities. Staff Sergeant Chen conducted his equipment inspection with increased scrutiny appropriate to the day's advanced training requirements, his experienced assessment identifying students whose preparation suggested readiness for extended range shooting versus those who would likely struggle with the technical demands ahead. Martinez's position received his standard verification process, her equipment arrangement consistently meeting military standards without requiring correction or guidance. 600-meter shooting represents the practical limit for most military applications, Master Sergeant Rodriguez announced as students completed their final preparations. Success at this distance requires integration of all fundamentals you've learned, plus environmental reading skills that can only be developed through extensive practice. Today's exercises will identify students with potential for advanced sniper training and those who should focus on shorter range applications. The morning's first exercise required students to engage targets at 600 meters within a compressed time limit that simulated operational conditions where deliberate shooting was not possible. Each student would fire 5 rounds within 8 minutes, including all preparation, environmental assessment, and target engagement procedures. The time constraint eliminated the luxury of extended preparation that had characterized previous training days. Martinez positioned herself behind Rifle 0847, with movements that had become familiar to nearby students and instructors, her body alignment achieving consistent positioning without apparent measurement or adjustment. Her equipment staging reflected systematic organization developed through repetition, each item positioned for immediate access without conscious thought during shooting sequences. The rifle's bipod contacted the concrete rest with mechanical precision that suggested practiced coordination between mental preparation and physical execution. Her initial sight picture acquisition proceeded with methodical efficiency as she established the sight alignment that connected her rifle system with the distant target. The 600-meter range transformed the target into a barely visible rectangle through her scope, but her eye adapted to the reduced image size without apparent difficulty or extended adjustment time. Her breathing pattern established the controlled rhythm that would provide stability during trigger manipulation under time pressure. The command to commence firing initiated a sequence of events that would separate students with natural long-range aptitude from those whose skills were limited to shorter distances. Martinez's first shot occurred at the 2-minute mark, allowing sufficient time for complete environmental assessment while maintaining adequate reserve for subsequent engagements. The bullet's flight time at 600 meters created a perceptible delay between rifle report and target impact that challenged students accustomed to instantaneous feedback. The spotting scope revealed impact placement that appeared centered within the target's scoring area, suggesting elevation and windage adjustments that accurately compensated for ballistic drop and environmental effects at the extended range. Her bolt manipulation proceeded with the smooth mechanical rhythm that had characterized all her shooting, the spent case ejecting cleanly as the next cartridge fed into the chamber with precision that indicated flawless rifle function. Students around her experienced varying degrees of success with the transition to 600-meter shooting under time constraints, their previous confidence evaporating as multiple technical challenges combined to create performance demands that exceeded their current capabilities. The FBI agent's first shot produced no visible impact on his target, suggesting bullet placement that missed the entire backstop area or elevation errors that carried his round into the impact area behind the target frames. Williams had spent the previous evening calculating ballistic solutions for 600-meter engagements, his notebook filled with trajectory data and environmental compensation formulas that attempted to reduce long-range shooting to mathematical precision. His first shot reflected accurate elevation calculation but failed to account for the quartering wind that had developed during the morning's atmospheric warming, resulting in impact placement several feet from his intended point of aim. Martinez's second shot impacted within inches of her first effort, establishing the kind of consistency that marked experienced precision shooters operating at extended ranges. Her shooting rhythm had adapted to the compressed time schedule without sacrificing the methodical preparation that supported accurate shot placement, suggesting operational experience that extended beyond academic training environments. The Navy SEAL struggled with wind-reading challenges that his extensive military training had not specifically addressed, his analytical approach to environmental assessment consuming time that could not be recovered within the exercise parameters. His shots created patterns that indicated good understanding of elevation requirements but inadequate compensation for horizontal wind effects that multiplied in significance at 600 meters. Environmental conditions are changing continuously, Rodriguez announced, noting the atmospheric instability that accompanied morning thermal heating. Wind patterns that existed when you began shooting may no longer apply to current conditions. Successful long-range shooters adapt their technique based on real-time environmental observation rather than initial assessments that become obsolete within minutes. Martinez's third shot maintained the accuracy pattern she had established, her target displaying grouping that would have satisfied advanced students with significantly more training experience. Her environmental reading skills appeared sufficient to track changing conditions and adjust her shooting technique accordingly, indicating background knowledge that enabled confident adaptation to dynamic situations. The state police officer had achieved improved shot placement compared to previous days but struggled with group consistency under time pressure, his accuracy degrading as the compressed schedule eliminated the deliberate preparation time that had supported his earlier success. His experience with tactical shooting had prepared him for time constraints, but not for the technical precision required at 600 meters. Target engagement continued across the firing line with results that revealed the wide variation in student capabilities when challenged by conditions that demanded integration of all technical skills learned during the week's training. Some students adapted successfully to the increased demands, others maintained marginal performance through concentrated effort, and several displayed performance degradation that indicated they had reached the limits of their current capabilities. Martinez completed her 5-shot allocation with 3 minutes remaining in the exercise period, her efficient time management reflecting either exceptional technical proficiency or operational experience that enabled rapid target engagement without sacrificing accuracy. Her target analysis would reveal grouping that approached the mechanical accuracy limits of the M24 system under field conditions. Outstanding performance under advanced conditions, Chen observed while examining her target through the spotting scope. Your consistency at 600 meters exceeds what we typically see from students with extensive prior training. This level of precision shooting ability suggests potential for specialized applications beyond standard military requirements. His assessment carried professional recognition reserved for students displaying exceptional natural ability or extensive background experience. The afternoon session introduced shooting from unconventional positions that simulated operational conditions where standard prone shooting was not possible. Students would engage targets from sitting, kneeling, and standing positions that challenged their ability to maintain accuracy without the stability provided by bipod support and prone positioning. Martinez adapted to each new challenge with systematic efficiency that suggested familiarity with tactical shooting requirements. Equipment transitions between shooting positions proceeded with measured precision as students learned to maintain rifle zero while adapting to different support methods and body positions. Each position change required complete reestablishment of shooting fundamentals, from sight picture acquisition to breathing control to trigger manipulation that maintained consistency despite altered physical circumstances. Martinez's accuracy remained exceptional despite the additional challenges imposed by unconventional shooting positions, her performance suggesting training background that extended beyond basic marksmanship instruction into tactical applications. Her transitions between positions proceeded with tactical efficiency that indicated operational experience rather than academic knowledge of shooting techniques. The day's training concluded with individual performance assessments that would determine student advancement to final qualification exercises. Martinez's consistent excellence throughout the week had established her as the benchmark against which other students' performance was measured, her capabilities serving as demonstration of the potential that existed within the M24 system when operated by someone with appropriate skills and background. Range maintenance activities provided opportunity for informal conversation among students whose week of shared training had created the kind of professional relationships that developed during intensive military instruction. Martinez continued her pattern of focused attention to equipment care, while remaining politely distant from discussions that revealed other students' backgrounds and expectations for future training opportunities. Equipment cleaning procedures consumed the remainder of the afternoon as students prepared their rifles for the final day's qualification exercises that would determine successful course completion. Martinez approached these tasks with systematic thoroughness that ensured optimal rifle condition while providing time for mental preparation for challenges that would test everything she had demonstrated during the week's progression through increasingly demanding shooting scenarios. The qualification day arrived with atmospheric conditions that seemed designed to test every technical skill the students had developed throughout their week of intensive training. Friday morning's air carried the kind of unpredictable thermal currents that transformed precision shooting from mechanical exercise into dynamic problem-solving challenge, where success depended on real-time adaptation rather than memorized procedures. The range complex buzzed with nervous energy as students realized their performance during the next 8 hours would determine whether their week of effort translated into official certification or documented failure. Martinez completed her pre-dawn equipment preparation with the same systematic thoroughness that had characterized her entire training experience, but observers with trained eyes might have noticed subtle changes in her routine that suggested increased focus appropriate to the day's significance. Her ammunition inspection proceeded with forensic attention to detail, each cartridge receiving individual evaluation that exceeded previous days' already meticulous standards. The rifle components were tested through complete operational cycles that confirmed mechanical readiness for the sustained firing that qualification exercises would demand. Range safety personnel had conducted their most thorough inspection of the training cycle, verifying target placement, backstop integrity, and communication systems that would coordinate qualification activities across multiple firing lanes simultaneously. The administrative requirements for qualification added complexity that exceeded normal training days, with documentation procedures that would create permanent records of each student's performance under standardized conditions. Master Sergeant Rodriguez assembled the instructor cadre in the range control facility for final briefings that emphasized the objectivity required for qualification assessment. Each instructor carried responsibility for evaluating students according to established standards that made no accommodation for individual backgrounds, previous experience, or personal circumstances that might influence performance. The qualification course represented military standards that remained constant regardless of student capabilities or instructor preferences. Today's exercises will determine successful course completion according to criteria that have remained unchanged for 20 years, Rodriguez announced to the assembled students. Your performance will be evaluated against established standards rather than comparison with other students. Some of you will achieve scores that exceed minimum requirements, others will meet standards exactly, and some may require additional training before attempting qualification again. The first qualification exercise required students to engage targets at multiple distances within prescribed time limits that simulated operational conditions where extended preparation was not available. Each student would fire at 100, 300, and 600 meters in sequence, with position changes between distances that tested their ability to maintain accuracy while adapting to different ranges and environmental conditions within compressed time constraints. Martinez positioned herself at lane 14 for the final time during the training cycle, her equipment arrangement reflecting lessons learned throughout the week while maintaining the systematic organization that had characterized all her preparations. The rifle rested across the shooting rest with alignment that appeared achieved through measurement rather than approximation, its scope positioned at the exact height that eliminated physical strain during extended shooting sequences. Her ammunition allocation for qualification consisted of 60 rounds of match-grade cartridges that represented the culmination of her week's shooting progression. Each round would be accounted for through detailed documentation that tracked student performance with precision that exceeded civilian shooting competitions. The psychological pressure of qualification created performance variables that some students handled successfully, while others discovered capabilities they had not known they possessed. The command structure for qualification exercises operated with military efficiency that left no room for individual accommodation or special circumstances. Students who failed to complete exercises within prescribed time limits would receive scores based on rounds actually fired, regardless of reasons for incomplete performance. Equipment malfunctions, physical difficulties, or environmental challenges were considered part of the test rather than excuses for modified standards. Williams had spent the previous evening reviewing his performance data from the week's training, his notebook filled with calculations and analysis that attempted to predict his qualification prospects through statistical evaluation. His preparation reflected the academic approach he had applied throughout training, but qualification exercises would test integrated performance rather than theoretical knowledge of shooting principles. Martinez's first target engagement occurred at 100 meters, where her performance throughout the week had established accuracy standards that approached the mechanical limits of the M24 system. Her sight picture acquisition proceeded with practiced efficiency as she established the alignment that connected rifle, scope, and target into a unified aiming system. The consistency of her preparation suggested confidence developed through successful repetition rather than nervous over-preparation. Her initial shot struck the target with impact placement that appeared precisely centered through the spotting scope, continuing the accuracy pattern that had characterized her entire training experience. The mechanical precision of her bolt manipulation reflected coordination between mental preparation and physical execution that had become automatic through systematic practice. Her shooting rhythm adapted to qualification time constraints without sacrificing the methodical approach that supported consistent accuracy. Students around her experienced varying degrees of success with qualification pressure, their performance revealing how individual personalities responded to formal evaluation conditions. Some students exceeded their training performance under the motivation of official assessment, while others discovered that anxiety affected their shooting in ways that practice sessions had not predicted. The psychological component of qualification created variables that technical preparation could not address. The FBI agent had achieved improved consistency during training but struggled with time pressure that eliminated the deliberate preparation procedures he had relied upon for accuracy. His qualification shooting reflected the compromise between speed and precision that marked many students' adaptation to operational requirements. His analytical approach to shooting served him well during deliberate practice but became liability under time constraints that demanded instinctive responses. Martinez completed her 100-meter engagement, with time remaining that indicated efficient target acquisition and shooting procedures developed through systematic training. Her transition to the 300-meter position proceeded with tactical efficiency that suggested operational experience beyond academic marksmanship instruction. The equipment changes required for different ranges were accomplished without apparent consultation of reference materials or instructor guidance. Her 300-meter shooting maintained the accuracy she had demonstrated throughout the week, her target displaying impact patterns that would satisfy advanced students with significantly more training experience. The environmental reading skills she had demonstrated allowed her to adapt to changing atmospheric conditions without the extended observation periods that other students required for similar accuracy. Her shooting rhythm remained consistent despite the increased technical demands of extended range engagement. The Navy SEAL from Dam Neck had developed improved wind reading skills during the week's training but continued experiencing difficulty with the integration of multiple environmental factors under time pressure. His qualification performance reflected competent understanding of individual techniques, combined with challenges in coordinating all variables simultaneously within compressed time schedules. Atmospheric conditions are changing rapidly, Staff Sergeant Chen announced, noting thermal currents that had developed as morning temperatures rose. Students engaging targets now face different environmental challenges than those who shot earlier. This variation is intentional. Qualification standards account for changing conditions by requiring adaptation rather than optimal circumstances. Martinez's transition to 600-meter shooting proceeded with the same systematic efficiency that had characterized her performance throughout training. Her equipment preparation for extended range engagement required no consultation with instructors or reference materials, suggesting familiarity with long-range shooting procedures that exceeded basic training requirements. The rifle's scope adjustment for 600 meters was accomplished with mechanical precision that indicated extensive previous experience. Her first shot at qualification's maximum distance struck the target with accuracy that would have been exceptional for any student but was consistent with her week-long performance pattern. The bullet's extended flight time at 600 meters created challenges for students unaccustomed to the delay between trigger press and impact confirmation, But Martinez appeared unaffected by timing variations that disrupted other students' shooting rhythm. The state police officer had achieved marginal performance at 600 meters during training and discovered that qualification pressure affected his long-range shooting more significantly than shorter distances. His accuracy degraded under time constraints that eliminated the extended preparation time he had relied upon for acceptable performance during practice sessions. Target analysis during qualification proceeded with documentation requirements that exceeded normal training assessments, each student's performance recorded in detail that would become part of their permanent training records. Martinez's targets displayed consistency that approached textbook examples of precision shooting, her grouping at all distances demonstrating integration of technical skills that most students required months of additional training to develop. Williams completed his qualification with mixed results that reflected his theoretical preparation combined with practical limitations in environmental reading and time management. His performance met minimum standards at shorter ranges, but fell short of requirements for 600-meter shooting, indicating areas requiring additional training before attempting requalification. Exceptional qualification performance, Rodriguez observed while reviewing Martinez's complete target analysis. Your scores exceed minimum requirements by margins that indicate potential for advanced training opportunities. This level of precision shooting capability is rarely seen during initial M24 qualification exercises. His assessment carried professional recognition that experienced instructors reserved for students displaying unusual natural ability or extensive background experience. The administrative processing of qualification results consumed the remainder of the morning as instructors compiled individual performance data into official documentation that would determine student certification status. Martinez's consistent excellence had established her as the course's standout performer, her capabilities serving as demonstration of potential that existed within students who brought appropriate preparation and natural ability to precision shooting training. Graduation ceremonies concluded the week's training with recognition appropriate to military professional education, but the informal conversations among students and instructors revealed awareness that Martinez's performance had exceeded normal parameters in ways that suggested background experience beyond her training file documentation. Her week of systematic excellence had established questions that official records did not address. Equipment turn-in procedures provided final opportunity for student interaction as rifles were returned to armory control and personal gear was organized for departure from the training facility. Martinez approached these tasks with the same methodical attention that had characterized all her training activities, her rifle receiving final maintenance that ensured optimal condition for subsequent student use. The immediate aftermath of qualification brought an unusual quiet to the range complex as instructors processed results that defied their accumulated experience with student performance patterns. Master Sergeant Rodriguez sat alone in the range control facility, surrounded by target analysis sheets and performance documentation that told a story his 23 years of training experience had not prepared him to interpret. Martinez's qualification scores exceeded the course record by margins that suggested either exceptional natural ability or background experience that her training file did not document. Staff Sergeant Chen entered the facility carrying additional documentation that would complete the official record of each student's performance during the week's training cycle. His expression reflected the professional uncertainty that accompanied encounters with capabilities that exceeded normal parameters, particularly when those capabilities appeared in students whose background suggested no previous exposure to precision shooting training. Her composite score is 96%, Rodriguez announced, reviewing the calculations that reduced Martinez's week of systematic excellence to numerical evaluation. The previous course record was 87%, achieved by a Marine Scout sniper instructor who attended for advanced training. She exceeded that by margins that approached statistical impossibility for initial M24 exposure. His voice carried professional bewilderment rather than celebration. The scoring system had been designed to account for the learning curve that characterized student progression through increasingly difficult shooting challenges, with percentage calculations that reflected realistic expectations for personnel receiving their first exposure to precision rifle systems. Martinez's performance had rendered those calculations meaningless by achieving accuracy that approached the mechanical limits of the equipment rather than the typical limitations of student capabilities. Chen spread her individual target analysis across the desk surface, each sheet revealing shot groupings that would have satisfied experienced snipers with years of operational experience. Her 100-meter shooting had produced groups measuring less than half an inch, performance that exceeded military standards by factors that suggested either remarkable natural ability or extensive previous training that remained undocumented in her personnel records. The 300-meter targets show the same pattern, Chen observed, pointing to measurements that confirmed consistency across all distances rather than the typical degradation that marked most students' transition to extended ranges. Her group sizes actually improved at longer distances, which indicates environmental reading skills that usually require months of development. This isn't beginner's luck, it's systematic competence. Rodriguez examined the 600-meter qualification targets that represented the course's most challenging shooting requirement, where most students struggled to achieve minimum acceptable accuracy under optimal conditions. Martinez's targets displayed precision that would have earned recognition at competitive shooting matches, with a shot placement that demonstrated integration of technical skills typically requiring extensive specialized training to develop. The administrative processing of exceptional performance required consultation with higher headquarters to determine appropriate recognition and documentation procedures. Military training standards assumed normal distribution of student capabilities, with provisions for outstanding performance that rarely required implementation. Martinez's achievement fell outside established parameters in ways that created administrative challenges for instructors accustomed to routine evaluation procedures. We need to verify her background information, Rodriguez decided, reaching for the secure telephone that connected the range facility with personnel records databases. Performance like this doesn't develop spontaneously. She either has extensive previous training that wasn't documented, or natural ability that approaches the theoretical limits of human capability. Either way, someone needs to know about it. The personnel inquiry revealed information that partially explained Martinez's exceptional performance while raising additional questions about her assignment to basic training rather than advanced courses more appropriate to her demonstrated capabilities. Her military record indicated deployment experience in specialized units whose operational details remained classified above the instructor's security clearance levels. Chen reviewed the deployment information that appeared in Martinez's unclassified record, noting assignment durations and geographic locations that suggested operational experience rather than training assignments. The timing of her deployments corresponded with military operations that had required precision shooting capabilities, but specific details of her role remained protected by security classifications that prevented detailed analysis. 3 deployments with special operations units, Rodriguez noted, scanning information that provided context for capabilities they had observed during training. 18 months total in environments where precision shooting would have been operationally relevant. That explains the competence, but not why she was assigned to basic M24 training rather than instructor development or advanced courses. The security classifications that protected operational details also prevented instructors from accessing information that would explain Martinez's apparent decision to complete basic training rather than requesting assignment to positions more appropriate to her demonstrated capabilities. Her motivations remained as mysterious as her background, creating professional curiosity that military protocols prevented them from satisfying through direct inquiry. Other students had departed the facility with mixed emotions about their week of intensive training, some celebrating successful qualification, while others processed disappointment with performance that had fallen short of their expectations. Williams had achieved minimum qualification standards through concentrated effort that exceeded his natural capabilities, while several others would require additional training before attempting requalification. The FBI agent had earned respectable scores that reflected systematic application of instruction combined with professional dedication to skill development, his law enforcement background providing foundation for precision shooting that could be refined through additional practice. His qualification would enable advanced training opportunities that could develop his demonstrated potential for tactical applications. Martinez had remained after equipment turn-in to complete administrative requirements that accompanied exceptional performance, her presence in the facility creating opportunity for informal conversation that might provide insight into background information that official records protected. Her demeanor remained consistent with the reserved professionalism she had displayed throughout training, offering no voluntary information about previous experience or future assignments. Outstanding week of shooting, Rodriguez commented, attempting to initiate discussion that might reveal details about her background without violating security protocols. Your performance suggests extensive previous experience with precision rifles. "Have you had opportunity for advanced training before this course?" His inquiry was carefully phrased to respect classification restrictions while seeking information that might explain her capabilities. Martinez acknowledged the comment with polite appreciation, but provided no details about previous training or operational experience that might explain her systematic excellence throughout the week's increasingly challenging exercises. Her responses remained professionally appropriate, while revealing nothing about background information that would satisfy instructor curiosity about her exceptional capabilities. "The M24 is an excellent system," she replied, her first extended comment during the week's training. "Well-designed equipment responds predictably when operated according to proper procedures. Consistent application of fundamentals produces reliable results regardless of environmental conditions or range requirements." Her assessment was technically accurate, but provided no insight into how she had acquired the expertise to apply those fundamentals so effectively. Chen attempted different approaches to elicit information about her background, asking about previous assignments and training opportunities in ways that might reveal details about her experience without requiring discussion of classified information. Martinez answered each question with professional courtesy that provided factual responses, while avoiding details that might explain her exceptional performance. The conversation continued for several minutes, with Martinez providing polite acknowledgement of instructor comments while revealing nothing substantive about her background or previous experience with precision shooting. Her ability to maintain professional conversation without disclosing personal information suggested training in operational security that extended beyond basic military requirements for information protection. "Your performance this week exceeded course records," Rodriguez stated directly, abandoning subtle approaches in favor of straightforward recognition. Achievement like this typically indicates extensive previous training or exceptional natural ability. Either way, someone in the sniper community should know about capabilities like yours. Would you be interested in advanced training opportunities that could develop this potential further? Martinez considered the question with the same measured attention she had applied to all training challenges, her response revealing nothing about personal ambitions or professional goals that might influence her decisions about future assignments. Her expression remained neutral as she provided appreciation for the recognition while declining to commit to specific training opportunities or career directions. "I appreciate the assessment," she responded with professional courtesy that acknowledged instructor expertise while maintaining personal privacy about future plans. This week provided excellent training in M24 system operation and precision shooting fundamentals. The instruction was comprehensive and the equipment performed according to specifications. Her answer was factually accurate while avoiding any indication of personal interest in advanced training. The administrative requirements for exceptional performance documentation consumed additional time as instructors completed paperwork that would create permanent records of Martinez's achievement for future reference by personnel managers and training coordinators. Her qualification scores would become part of military databases that tracked individual capabilities for assignment purposes, potentially influencing future opportunities regardless of her personal preferences. Equipment verification procedures confirmed that Rifle 0847 had sustained no damage during Martinez's week of use, its condition remaining consistent with precision instruments that had received proper care and maintenance throughout intensive training. Her systematic attention to equipment maintenance had preserved rifle accuracy that would benefit subsequent students assigned to use the same weapon. Final administrative processing concluded with documentation that would follow Martinez through her military career, creating permanent records of capabilities demonstrated during her week at the Precision Rifle Training Facility. The exceptional nature of her performance would generate attention from personnel managers, seeking to identify individuals with specialized capabilities for advanced assignments. Range personnel began preparation for the following week's training cycle as Martinez completed her departure procedures, her presence at the facility ending with the same professional discretion that had characterized her entire training experience. The questions about her background and capabilities would remain unanswered, but her achievement would become part of training facility legend that instructors would reference when describing exceptional student performance. The facility returned to routine operations as staff prepared for new students who would arrive the following Monday, but conversations among instructors would continue to reference Martinez's systematic excellence as demonstration of potential that existed within individuals who brought appropriate preparation and natural ability to precision shooting training. Her week of achievement had established new standards for student performance that would influence instructor expectations for future training cycles. The Monday morning after Martinez's departure brought a different energy to Range Complex Alpha, where instructors prepared for another training cycle while processing the implications of performance that had exceeded their collective experience. Master Sergeant Rodriguez stood at the window of the range control facility, watching maintenance crews prepare firing lanes for students who would arrive with the same mixture of confidence and anxiety that characterized every new group, but none would likely achieve the systematic excellence that had marked the previous week's most memorable student. The telephone call came at 0847 hours, its timing suggesting coordination with military precision rather than administrative convenience. Rodriguez recognized the voice of Colonel Marcus Webb, whose assignment to Special Operations Command carried authority that extended far beyond normal training facility oversight. The conversation would provide answers to questions that had accumulated during Martinez's week of exceptional performance, while raising new concerns about information that had been withheld from training personnel. "Sergeant Rodriguez, I understand you had an interesting student last week," Webb began, his tone carrying professional interest that suggested knowledge of events that extended beyond routine training reports. "Staff Sergeant Elena Martinez completed your M24 course with performance that exceeded normal parameters. I'm calling to provide context that security classifications prevented you from accessing during her training." The explanation that followed revealed background information that transformed Martinez's exceptional shooting from mysterious achievement into logical outcome of experience that her training file had not documented. Her 3 deployments with Special Operations units had included 18 months as a precision marksman with classified units whose operational requirements exceeded conventional military standards for accuracy and consistency under extreme conditions. Her assignment to your basic course was part of transition planning as she prepares for instructor duties at the Special Operations Sniper School, Webb continued. "We needed current documentation of her capabilities using standard military equipment and evaluation criteria. Your assessment provides baseline information for advanced training assignments that will utilize her operational experience for instructor development." Rodriguez absorbed information that explained Martinez's systematic competence while revealing the complexity of personnel management decisions that considered individual capabilities, operational requirements, and training facility needs in ways that remained invisible to instructors focused on immediate educational objectives. Her presence in basic training had served multiple purposes that extended beyond her personal skill development. The colonel's explanation continued with details about Martinez's operational background that provided context for capabilities that had seemed impossible for someone ostensibly receiving initial M24 exposure. Her previous experience included precision shooting under combat conditions that demanded accuracy levels exceeding peacetime training standards, with environmental challenges that made the Virginia Range Complex appear controlled and predictable by comparison. Bob Quefter. Her qualification scores will become part of instructor candidate evaluation, but they also serve as demonstration of potential that exists within personnel who receive appropriate training and operational experience, Webb explained. Your facility's reputation for excellence made it the logical choice for generating documentation that will support her transition to training responsibilities. Rodriguez understood that Martinez's week at his facility had represented evaluation rather than education, with her systematic excellence serving as confirmation of capabilities that would qualify her for positions requiring the highest levels of precision shooting competence. Her reserved demeanor and professional discretion reflected operational security training that extended far beyond basic military requirements for information protection. The conversation concluded with appreciation for instructor professionalism that had provided appropriate training environment for evaluation purposes while maintaining security protocols that protected classified information about student backgrounds and operational experience. Martinez's achievement would remain part of facility records, but her future assignments would utilize capabilities that extended far beyond basic M24 qualification. 2 weeks later, the range facility received notification that Staff Sergeant Elena Martinez had been assigned as Chief Instructor for Advanced Precision Marksmanship at the Special Operations Command Training Facility, where her operational experience and demonstrated teaching abilities would prepare the military's most elite shooters for missions requiring unprecedented accuracy under extreme conditions. Her legend at Range Complex Alpha would continue growing through instructor conversations that described systematic excellence achieved by someone who had appeared to be learning the M24 system for the first time. New students would hear references to performance standards established by a quiet professional who had exceeded course records while maintaining the kind of humble competence that marked true experts in their field. The story of Martinez's week would be retold with embellishments that transformed factual achievement into inspirational example of potential that existed within individuals who combined natural ability with systematic preparation and professional dedication. Her systematic approach to equipment preparation, environmental reading, and shooting fundamentals would be referenced as demonstration of habits that supported exceptional performance under challenging conditions. Years later, instructors would continue mentioning the student who had achieved course record performance while appearing to learn the system for the first time, her example serving as reminder that exceptional capabilities sometimes arrived in forms that challenged assumptions about background, experience, and potential. Her quiet competence had demonstrated that mastery often spoke through actions rather than words, achievement rather than claims. The M24 rifle that Martinez had used during her training week would be assigned to subsequent students who would unknowingly benefit from equipment that had been maintained to the highest standards by someone who understood the relationship between systematic care and consistent accuracy. Her influence would continue through equipment condition that reflected professional attention to details that many students overlooked. Range Complex Alpha would continue its mission of providing precision rifle training to military and law enforcement personnel. But Martinez's week had established new understanding of potential that existed within students who brought appropriate preparation and natural ability to demanding training programs. Her achievement would influence instructor expectations and evaluation standards for future training cycles. The story of Staff Sergeant Elena Martinez serves as a reminder that exceptional capabilities often arrive without announcement or obvious identification, carried by individuals who demonstrate mastery through systematic performance rather than self-promotion or dramatic gestures. Her week of quiet excellence illustrates the power of preparation, consistency, and professional competence applied to challenges that reveal true capability under demanding conditions. In a world that often celebrates noise and spectacle, Martinez's achievement demonstrates that genuine mastery speaks through actions rather than words, results rather than promises, and systematic excellence rather than dramatic moments. Her story reminds us that the most impressive capabilities are often carried by those who attract the least attention, their competence revealed only when circumstances demand demonstration of skills that exceed normal expectations. Her influence extends beyond military training to any field where excellence requires integration of technical knowledge, physical skill, and mental discipline applied consistently under challenging conditions. The principles that enabled her exceptional performance, systematic preparation, environmental awareness, and consistent application of fundamentals, apply to achievement in any domain where success demands more than theoretical knowledge. Take a moment to consider the quiet professionals in your own field who demonstrate mastery through consistent performance rather than self-promotion. Their example provides guidance for developing capabilities that speak through results rather than reputation, achievement rather than acclaim. Share your thoughts about silent excellence in the comments below, and subscribe for more stories that celebrate competence over claims, substance over spectacle, and the quiet strength that changes outcomes without changing headlines. Preparing and narrating this type of story took us long efforts and hard work, so if you are enjoying the story, please consider subscribing to our channel.